This link between egoic attachments and harmful behaviors is a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of this vicious cycle of chasing social approval to minimize our fears. Welcome back to Journey of Self-Awareness, your YouTube channel for personal growth and self-exploration. Today, as we continue our series about things we have to give up on a spiritual journey, I was going to talk about social position, status, prestige, and fame, but while preparing for this video, it occurred to me that the need for social approval and its corollary, the fear of rejection, are really more central concerns. I think the need for approval is important because it can lead to so many problems in egoic attachments and aversions that keep us bound to the confines of the separate self. Most of these attachments, egoic identifications, and aversions involve the pursuit of external sources of validation that can actually trap us in cycles of constantly seeking approval while fearing rejection. Even though the need for approval and the fear of rejection are fundamental aspects of the human experience, they can lead to a host of other problems and psychological maladies that we'll also want to talk about. At the outset, I should mention that there's nothing really wrong with social approval. In fact, it's quite important. But we must be mindful of our egoic attachments and our preoccupations. And we must remember the importance of continually striving to improve ourselves and to live according to our core values and our ideals. By cultivating love and compassion, we can transcend our fears of rejection and our attachments to external sources of validation, recognition, and success. In short, we can live a more authentic life and find genuine fulfillment and lasting happiness. All of us are social beings who crave connection and a sense of belonging. As infants, we seek positive attachments with our caregivers, which lay the foundation for our understanding of love, acceptance, and validation. Then during early childhood, as we begin to interact with the wider world, approval and acceptance from others becomes increasingly important. Young children yearn for praise and attention and affirmation from the most important people in their lives, and this lays the foundation for a lifelong pursuit of acceptance and feelings of belonging. Later, during adolescence, as we forge more independent identities, peer approval, acceptance, and social status become even more important sources of external validation. Then, by early adulthood, desires for social approval and validation have become deeply ingrained in us, and many of us come to believe that external approval is the key to our own self-worth, which can unhappily lead to a lifelong pursuit of social acceptance and recognition. Of course, I should also mention the tremendous influence of the wider culture, especially mass media and advertising, which constantly bombards us with messages about what it means to be successful, attractive, and happy. Of course, I've only provided a very brief synopsis of the emergence of a limited aspect of human desires and social needs, but this is an important part of child development, and it provides crucial insights into the roots of our attachments to external sources of validation, such as pursuits for social position, status, and recognition. And it also helps us understand the impact of early childhood experiences on psychological outcomes, such as our feelings of self-worth or self-esteem. Of course, all this is important because our lives are heavily influenced by our basic needs for approval and fears of rejection. The need for approval can drive individuals to seek external validation and compel them to ambitiously strive for achievements and accomplishments that they think will garner approval or admiration from others. This pursuit's often fueled by the belief that external validation is key for one's self-esteem and self-worth. Conversely, the fear of rejection operates as an aversion. It's a deep-seated response to the possibility of being shunned or excluded from social groups. In many ways, this is the flip side of our desire for social connection. We dread rejection because it threatens the very sense of acceptance and belonging that our need for approval seeks to satisfy. As a result, the mere thought of being rejected can trigger anxiety and apprehension, as it poses a potential threat to the external validation upon which we've come to depend. Of course, there are many reasons why people may fear rejection. Some have had negative experiences with rejection in the past, such as being bullied, ostracized, or even abandoned. Others may have low self-esteem or feel insecure about themselves. Still others may be perfectionist or worried about not being good enough. The fear of rejection also operates as a powerful force that influences our choices. The potential for criticism, judgment, or exclusion can be paralyzing to some people and lead them to avoid situations or opportunities that might be possible sources of rejection. This fear can be a formidable obstacle hindering personal growth and preventing people from fully engaging in life's opportunities. The important point is that the need for approval and the fear of rejection can create a vicious cycle. The more we seek external validation, the more afraid we can become of rejection. This fear can then lead us to seek even more validation, which perpetuates the cycle. This can be harmful because it leads us to rely on external sources of satisfaction for our sense of self-worth. For example, people can become identified with their job titles, their social roles and positions, and even their bank accounts, which can serve as sources of both social validation and self-worth. However, when we're wedded to external sources of self-worth, we can become insecure and anxious if we don't meet our own or others' expectations. Of course, we all want to be liked and accepted by others. We want to feel like we belong and that we're valued. These are perfectly natural human desires. However, when we become too dependent or too attached to external validation, it can lead to a number of problems. For example, we may become afraid to take risks or try new things because we're worried about what others might think. Or, fear of failure can keep us from pursuing new opportunities. We may also become more easily offended or hurt by criticism. It can also lead to anxiety and make people avoid certain social situations. In some cases, it can cause anxiety or even depression. The fear of being disliked, disapproved of, or abandoned by others can also lead to avoidance, self-doubt, and even low self-esteem. In addition to the suffering it can cause, being attached to external validation can also lead to inauthenticity. When people are constantly seeking approval from others, they may unwittingly compromise their values and core ideals. In fact, a relentless quest for approval can cause people to act unethically and immorally. In the pursuit of social approval, individuals may resort to boasting, deception, or even chronic lying. They may exaggerate their achievements, fabricate stories, or present a false image of themselves to gain validation or admiration from others. Such a web of deceit not only perpetuates inauthenticity, but it also erodes trust and integrity, leading to moral dilemmas and ethical conflicts. In addition, our egoic attachments to external validation can result in a host of other harmful behaviors. For example, I mentioned the harmful impacts of media and advertising messages, many of which place undue importance on idealized images or unrealistic beauty standards. And it's not just girls. Boys are also negatively affected by unrealistic appearance standards. Boys are bombarded with images of muscular, athletic bodies in the media and in advertising, which can lead them to feel like they need to have a certain body type in order to be attractive or successful. In addition, boys are also often judged on their appearance by their peers, and this can make them feel insecure about their bodies or lead them to engage in unhealthy behaviors, such as excessive dieting, excessive exercise, or even steroid abuse. In fact, these days, more and more boys are developing eating disorders. This link between egoic attachments and harmful behaviors is a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of this vicious cycle of chasing social approval to minimize our fears. In addition to suffering and inauthenticity, ethical and moral dilemmas, and harmful behaviors, I hope you can see that egoic attachments and identifications with external sources of validation, success, and social approval can really hinder our spiritual growth. The more we become preoccupied with egoic concerns and external sources of validation, the less room there is for inner exploration and self-awareness, both of which are crucial for our spiritual journey. The good news is that once we're aware of the underlying dynamics, we can begin to work to break free from these vicious cycles and pursue a path toward authenticity and inner peace. To overcome this need for approval and the fears of rejection, we must understand that approval is not the most important thing in life. What truly matters is our own happiness and the well-being of those around us. Authentic fulfillment lies in living a life aligned with our highest values and ideals. This involves a perpetual commitment to growth and development, always learning and striving to become better individuals. We need to set meaningful goals, work to become the best versions of ourselves, and prioritize our personal growth and values-based living. When we pursue personal growth and live authentically, social approval will naturally follow, and we'll even think more highly of ourselves. Simultaneously, we become better equipped to resist attachments to external validation. In our journey of self-awareness and personal growth, we must confront the negative effects of seeking approval from others and fearing rejection. Fortunately, there are practical steps we can take. First of all, we need to realize the fundamental truth shared by all spiritual traditions, that true happiness, lasting fulfillment, and inner peace can only be found within. It's futile to chase external sources of validation, social approval, or to base our self-worth on the opinions of others. True happiness can only be found by transcending the ego and embracing the intrinsic joy that comes from self-awareness, inner peace, and spiritual connection. So while social bonds and external success certainly have their place in our lives, pursuing them to find lasting happiness is a perilous path, and such external factors simply cannot provide the lasting fulfillment we seek. We must also recognize the illusory nature of all our egoic attachments, including fixations on external markers of success like social position, status, prestige, or fame. All of these are transient, and they don't represent the highest calling of our true self. All external markers of success are like shifting sands. They can't provide a stable foundation for lasting contentment. Clinging to the transient aspects of life inevitably leads to suffering, as all things change, evolve, or diminish. Our attachments can create cycles of seeking validation from others in order to feel good about ourselves. However, this is not a sustainable way to live, as we'll never be able to control how others perceive us. Instead, we need to learn to be comfortable within ourselves and our own abilities, regardless of what others think. The central message is simple. The need for approval and the fear of rejection are two sides of the same coin that feed our egos and keep us trapped in harmful cycles that block our path to awareness. While external validation has its place in our lives, true self-awareness, inner peace, and lasting fulfillment are only possible when we transcend our egoic attachments. Breaking free from these cycles is not an abstract concept. It involves adopting concrete tools and practices that empower us to transcend the need for external validation and discover lasting inner peace and happiness. It's about understanding that our intrinsic worth transcends external judgments and sources of approval. It's about embracing authenticity. It's about letting go of the relentless need for external approval and facing the fear of rejection head-on with equanimity. And it's about cultivating humility, which is extremely beneficial. Humility is a powerful virtue that plays a key role in our journey. It helps us acknowledge our imperfections, learn from our experiences, and develop a greater sense of inner contentment. Through humility, we can gradually let go of the need for external validation. It also helps us develop non-attachment and detachment, which is not the same as indifference. Detachment is a conscious practice of letting go of our attachments to egoic desires and aversions. By observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, we can loosen the grip of transient desires, making way for inner peace and freedom. Detachment liberates us from the relentless pursuit for external approval. Perhaps the most important thing we can do is comprehend the profound implications of impermanence. As stressed in all Buddhist teachings, developing a deep understanding of impermanence is critical. It entails recognizing that everything is fleeting, including all of the mundane sources of external validation, including social recognition, prestige, and beauty. This understanding really helps us let go of everything that's temporary and impermanent and to find stability within ourselves. I should point out that there are only a couple of things that aren't impermanent or subject to change. Can you guess what they are? This is a profound teaching from Buddhism. They're love and compassion. They remain constant amid the ever-changing facade of existence, transcending the limitations of time and space. These outstanding pinnacles of virtue are the very foundational cornerstones of every journey toward spiritual growth and well-being. They help us overcome every challenge, and their tremendous benefits radiate outward to all sentient beings. Thankfully, we can cultivate both love and compassion through daily practice. Love and compassion are innate qualities within every human heart. We must extend these virtues to ourselves just as we would extend them to others. And when we nurture self-compassion and engage in acts of warm-hearted loving kindness and generosity, regardless of what others think, we can break free from the cycles of pursuing external sources of approval and fearing rejection. Incorporating spiritual practices into our lives liberate us from the need for external validation and the fear of rejection, which leads to a more authentic sense of contentment and inner peace. By following a daily practice and committing to inner transformation, we can acquire a deeper understanding that true fulfillment comes from within, not external sources, and we can make steadfast progress on our journey toward a more fulfilling life. To find genuine fulfillment and lasting happiness, we need to be diligent, persistent, and committed to our personal growth. When we begin living in harmony with our values and when we nurture the enduring qualities of love and compassion, then we can truly transcend our attachments to external sources of validation and approval. Over time, we'll understand that true happiness comes from within, external validation will lose its appeal, and we'll realize a deeper sense of contentment and inner peace. We're so fortunate to have steadfast allies like love and compassion to guide us through the thicket of our egoic entanglements toward the shore of spiritual realization where we'll find true liberation from suffering. By embracing practices like mindfulness and meditating on impermanence, we can free ourselves from the shackle of our egoic attachments and awaken to the true causes of joy, happiness, and inner peace. As you continue along your spiritual journey, I hope you'll keep these insights in mind and never forget that the search for inner fulfillment is your most important journey. May the wisdom you gain along your path be a source of strength and inspiration to you, and may it propel you ever forward toward an abiding awareness of your true self. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Please tell your friends about us and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Also be sure to check out the in-depth blog articles on our website, josaonline.com, where you can download a free chapter from my upcoming book. Just look for the link at the top of the page. Well, thanks again for your support, and we'll see you next time right here on Journey of Self-Awareness.